Okay, so we got our editor essentially functioning. Um, Pretty close to what we want anyway. Uh, let's create a new map. So, test level 1. And just make sure, and we do new map. Okay. Why are our north and souths off? Fixed that. What's going on? Our left and right are reversed when we're rotated. Yeah, I thought we fixed that. We did fix that. All right, something has gotten reverted or something. Let's just give a build. Make sure we're up to date. Okay, let's try this again. All right, we're in our level editor. We open. Maps. We don't have any maps there. Is where it should be. Weird. Okay. Well, let's try it again. Test level 1. New map. Okay, created that. But why do we have no walls? Okay, well, apparently something has gotten off. Are we getting anything in the output logs? Hovers. Man, I hate it when things are working fine and then suddenly they aren't, and there's been 0 changes. All right, initialize new map with defaults, initializing 30 by 6 by 36 with default content. Finish initializing map. Let's make sure. Yeah, in our map manager. Oh, we've lost our meshes for some reason. All right. Let's try that again. 100, and then ceiling is also floor. Okay. Save that. Let's run again. Let's do test level 1. Load that map. Nothing. New map. Okay. Now we've got walls. And they look like they're positioned correctly. Yep. Okay. I kind of need to deal with view distance a little better, but that's fine. Okay. And then that's always left and right. That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Yep. All right. So we are up to date. Okay. I don't know why our thing didn't save. All right. So, but we've got a basically, we've got a map that displays. Okay. So now we want to we want to jump back over to Claude, and we want to now start being able to move those maps into the actual gameplay. Okay. We have the basics of our map done. I'd now like to start getting the actual game play going. All right. We have a main menu. But want to start getting player movement and all of that set up and running with a way to load particular maps and map transitions. Okay. All of that set up and running with a way to load particular maps and and transition from map to map. Okay, let's see what it has to say for that. All right, move from your map editor into actual gameplay implementation, specifically getting player movement working and setting up map loading transitions. Grid-based first-person dungeon crawler, yes. Okay, grid movement transition requirements. Loading entirely new levels, switching between different areas within the same level, both. Okay, you can read the code to see the state of things. Okay, so I believe there is an existing game mode and player controller classes need to be updated. Maps are in a data asset. There's an existing map manager that understands loading and rendering a map. Grid movement should be smooth interpolated between grid positions. WASD to move, QE to rotate 90 degrees. Real time with grid constraints. Turn-based movement. Okay. Turn-based movement is how things. No. Combat it. Let me think about this. Let's do turn-based. Let's go with turn-based, although we don't have to worry about anything other than a player moving through the map just yet. Transition would be the okay. Transitions would take one of two forms. Either the map manager loading a new data asset, us loading an entirely new level. Right now we can just deal with programmatically the map manager to load a new data asset. Okay. All right, so now it can start reading through the code and come up with a plan. And this is really kind of, it's like this kind of thing where I see the most help and the most benefit maybe from AI systems is like this kind of thing, especially as a solo dev, right? This is like a coworker that I can talk through ideas on, right? Bounce ideas around, figure things out. It's really, at least for me, a lot less about it actually writing the code. I mean, especially in this stage of things, I mean, it's kind of nice to just have this, thrown out there for me. Lets me just kind of concentrate more on uh, specific, feeling of things, how I want things to kind of function and work and all of that. But I think especially as we move, past a lot of kind of just this general setup and initial kind of, laying the groundwork for things. As we move out of that, I think the code writing part of this is going to be become less and less, and it's going to become a lot more of just that kind of keeping me moving, keeping me motivated, keeping things going. Because before this, when I would work on things on my own, I would often just like get to a point where I just hit a paralysis by analysis stage, where it's like, okay, I've got so many different ways that I could approach this that I just become stuck, not being able to really, do anything, because I just end up bouncing back and forth in my own head. Should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? Oh, what's going to be the issue with doing this? Oh, but then what about the issue if I do it this other way? And that's often times where my projects would then stall and stop. And so having, something like this where I can just be like, I don't know, I'm thinking about this or that. I'm trying to get going on this and just having it be like, okay, well, I think you should do this. This is what we should do here. Let me go ahead, set this kind of things up. Keeps me moving, keeps things progressing a lot better than, when it's just me. All right, so in movement logic, dealing with the player control. Oh, this will be interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's the hype around all this kind of AI stuff is a little out there. You know, I'm still not I'm not sold on the idea you know that it's going to you know that the productivity gains from it are nearly at the level um, that a lot of folks are saying. You know, I'll see posts, oh, I've been getting messages from, you know, my coworkers, they completed 30 tickets today in, you know, 5 minutes. And it's like, no, you know, um, yeah, maybe you did, you know, move 30 tickets into QA and then, you know, you're going to generate 180 bug tickets out of those 30 tickets, you know, based off of what's there. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not quite there, but I mean, it's moving at a pretty quick pace from kind of the updates. And, you know, so who knows what it'll look like in a year or 2 years from now. But, you know, I think the hype's a little ahead of it. Uh, and, you know, it's like one of, like sometimes what it feels like uh is if I don't know if folks remember like the 3D television, you know, craze that kind of went through a few years back. You know, like every TV was 3D. You know, you walked into a Best Buy or whatever, and it's like every TV was 3D, and 3D was going to be the thing. And now there's 3D nothing. You know, I don't even know if anybody makes 3D TVs anymore. Um, you know, and a lot of the hype just I don't know, sometimes reminds me of that. Now do I think this is just going to crater like that and you know, down the lines we'll be talking about how, oh, remember when everybody thought AI was going to replace all of our jobs? No. I don't think it's going to go away. I think that there's enough of a core thing here that as it continues to grow, as it continues to um, iterate and get better, it'll reach a point where it becomes useful. Do I think it's going to be the you know, oh, this is going to replace everything? I have my doubts on that. At least not within, you know, my lifetime. Uh, eventually, yeah, I think it gets there, but you know, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see though. Um, but eventually, you know, we'll kind of the pendulum will swing, and we'll kind of start kind of finding that middle ground, and you know, find the uses where this is really useful. Um, but I don't see it replacing folks yet. So, all right, so we are done writing our stuff. So we've got our gameplay game mode. So manages the gameplay sessions, finds the manager, player controller, handles the WAS movement and Q&E turning. Grid player pawn, smooth interpolated movement between grid positions. All right. So turn-based input movement is blocked during animations. Okay, smooth interpolation, no jarring snap movement, map integration. Uses map manager, simple collision, checks floor meshes to determine walkable cells. All right, compile the code. Create input assets. Input mapping context for the 6 movement keys. Input actions for each movement type. All right, create blueprint derivatives of the C++ classes. Set up a test level with your map manager. Start simple and add complexity as layers. Once you have the basic movement working, we can easily add map transitions, more sophisticated collision, combat, and counters UI elements. All right, let's see if we compile. That will be step 1. And we do not. All right, cannot access protected member declared in the controller. Okay, so nothing major. Just go ahead and have Claude clean that up for us. Okay. Back. Well, again. All right, and we compile. Okay. So let's go back to our levels and let's open up our level test. We got a directional light. We've got a map manager. All right, it's pointed to MD test level right now. Generate map visuals, it just has that. I need to add, I don't know if I need to add my defaults, but we'll go ahead and just add the defaults in here, just in case. We'll save that. Let's look at our world settings is Whispering Vale game mode and different pawn class. Okay, so let me go look. What did you add? All right, so we've got editor, we've got map. Got Whispering Vale game mode, Whispering Vale character. Map editor game mode, main menu. Map, let me just make sure that this is the date. Okay. There we go. All right, so gameplay game mode and gameplay player controller. So it did add that. Let me compile just to make sure that now that we've updated that, I just want to make sure all of these are there. Yeah, okay, we look okay. All right, so there's the gameplay player controller and the gameplay game mode. Why didn't it use the Whispering Vale character in the Whispering Vale game mode? Let me ask him. Okay, so what is the difference between the, is it gameplay game mode and player controller? Gameplay game mode and gameplay. Is it gameplay player controller? Gameplay game mode. Gameplay player controller and the Whispering Vale game mode and controller. Great question. Okay, these are the default Unreal template classes that came with your project. Is a standard FPS player with capsule collision, freeform movement, mouse select controls, jump functionality. Just as the default pawn to use FPS character, modern FPS. Okay, do we keep both sets for now? Okay. I don't need the... Yeah, I don't need standard FPS, but... Okay. All right, that's fine. So let's... View. Okay. Levels map UI. All right, let's go ahead and then let's create a blueprint based off of our game mode. Gameplay game mode. Blueprint gameplay game mode. Okay, and then we want a player controller. Blueprint gameplay player controller. All right, let's pop you open. Let's see what we have in here. Okay. So, yeah, we got to create our inputs and add those to the player. Awesome. And then our game mode. Player controller should be BP gameplay player controller. Okay, compile, save. All right, so let's do our inputs. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for that. Player inputs. All right, and then we need input. We need an input mapping context. Mapping player movement. Okay, and now I got to remind myself. All right, we've got mappings. Input actions, blah, blah, blah. Right, okay. And so then I need my input actions for move forward, move backward, strafe left, strafe right, turn left, turn right. Okay. So forward, backward, left. All right, so now in our input, we need to create an input action. Input action, move forward. Input action, move backward. Input action, forward, backward, move left. Action, move right. Input action, left. And input action, turn right. Okay. All right. Move backward. All right. Add a trigger. Pressed. Right. think that's all we have to do. Is that trigger is pressed. Okay, and I think that's all we have to do on here. And then in here, we'd have the move backward. And then that's where we can do keyboard. Backwards going to be S. And we have to add a trigger here also that it's pressed. No modifiers. Settings from actions. Okay, I think that's what we have to do. All right, so that's backwards, forwards, same thing. Pressed. Let's just get all this. Right, left, turn right. Okay, so backwards done. Forwards is done. U pressed. It's left. Pressed. It's right. Left. Pressed. Save. Turn right. Pressed. All those to be digital boot. Okay. All right. So now that's our S, W, A, forward, keyboard, W, triggers, okay. Let's go move left. It's going to be our A, fire. Oh, no modifiers. Yeah, move forward. Triggers. W, A, yes. Okay. Now you move left, move right. You are going to be keyboard E with a trigger of okay. Now we need our turn. Left. Down. This UI is not the best. Q. Triggers. Rest. Save. Just for giggles. And then our last one is going to be turn right. Turn right is keyboard E, E, a trigger of rest. Awesome. All right, save you. Now we come back to player controller, and you are our player movement. You are move forward, move backward, move left, move right, turn left, turn right. File, save. Boom. Okay, and I actually want to change. Oh, and then you are going to be gameplay game mode, which puts in our player controller. And I want to change you to test level 1. Let's go ahead and generate map visuals. There we go. What happens when we click this? Whoa. Okay. That doesn't seem to be working correctly. All right, let's save all of that. Let's jump back to our editor real quick. Open up our editor level, play that, and we want test level 1. Test level 1. Let's load that. What happened? Are we not? Map data assets. That's fine. Load. I wonder if I didn't fail to find object. Yeah, game maps. Okay. Yeah, I fucked that up. Okay. I changed the location where it saved, but I didn't change the location where it loads. So let's deal with that. Map editor. Is that in the... Yeah, I think that was in the map. It's not. Was that just in our map manager? Let's just search game/maps. Isn't that where it was looking? Set data. No. Or any of these are files. No. Why did we look? Build a low map from /game/maps. Content browser. Win64. Path test path soft object. Asset data package name. Pi fix it. None of this is ours. Let me, where I changed Spring Veil /map. There. So the map editor player controller. All right, there we go. Okay, so in here, where do we have /game/maps? Right there. Okay. So we don't want that. We want this. Game/maps. All right. We also want that one changed. And this one changed. Even though I'm not even sure that those are being used right now. But that's fine. Okay. And then let's compile that. That should get us loading our map correctly. Okay, so now if we jump back to here, we run this to test level 1. We load it. Boom. There we go. Okay. And then in this corner, I want to select that and I want to set the player start. All right. So player start is positioned there. I want to save that. And then I want to come back to Claude and tell it, okay. Maps should have a cell that is marked as the player start when the gameplay, when the a map is loaded for gameplay, we should be spawning the player at that cell. Let's see what it has to say about that. See, it already has player start functionality. Let me check the current implementation and update the gameplay system to properly use it. This player start property and the map manager has get player start position and set player start position functions. Checking for floor meshes to determine walkability, but we should be using the B is walkable property and spawning at the designated player start cell. We update the gameplay game mode to properly spawn the player at the player start position and add a function to load new maps. I didn't ask you to do anything with map transitions yet, but okay. So you want to add some helper functions? Add some helper functions. Falls back to 0, 0 if no start position is found. Awesome. Okay. For walls/obstacles, create UMap transition data assets. Okay. Let's compile you up. And some lovely errors. Shocking. Okay. Yes, you do need to fix those compilation errors. This is what I was talking about earlier. I was talking about how it's not quite there to replace. You know, simple things like this, you know, like having duplicated the on movement complete function. You know, the fact that it's it adds code to call methods that it can't call without checking if it can even call those. You know, and the other thing about this that you know, also leads me to be, you know, skeptical about you know, the AI really replacing us or whatnot is, you know, a lot of like these errors and these issues, like my IDE tells me instantaneously that these are issues. So in a lot of ways, our IDEs are still smarter than the AI, you know, within the context of what it is we're doing. And so there's a lot of little things like that it's like, you know, yeah, to really be something that can replace a human, it's got to understand a lot more about kind of what's going on. So, all right, but let's see if now we actually build. And then we'll see if we can actually get into the level. We are getting up on time, so let's see. All right, so we are in our editor still right now, so let's go to level test. And what happens when we click play? I'm seeing a whole lot of nothing. Okay. And yeah, we are not, well, it looked like actually we were, okay, so it may have rendered us at 0, 0, but it put us at 0, 0. So just real quick, okay, it looks like the player is being spawned directly at 0, 0, which in most cases is going to be a corner with walls. The player should be spawned in the center of the cell that is marked as the player spawn. So if the cell is 0, 0, 0, 0 cell, they would most likely be spawned 200, 100 X and Y in the world. Okay, let's see if we can get that to where we're at least that we're getting spawned in the right place. And then we can hit WASD real quick, see if something happens. But one way or the other, whether this works or doesn't work, because we're hitting 50 minutes on this video and I'm trying to keep the videos with a decent length, we'll probably call it for this video, since, you know, everything's kind of compiling there. The basic stuff is at least somewhat working, and then we'll pick up in the next episode making sure that we've got all of this movement and stuff working correctly if we run into any other issues. Now we're reading through, trying to find a grid to world position method. And you may have gotten stuck, Claude. Yeah. All right, but it looks like you figured it out anyway. Oh, no, you didn't. That was the old one. Okay. So let's try it one more time. Okay, now we're just straight up fixing grid to world position function. All right. Okay, let's compile and see what happens. Perfect. All right. Now what happens? Ooh, okay. So if I click E, Q, Q, E, oh, Q. Okay, we're rotating some, yeah, but we're not quite right. W's doing nothing. S moves me a different direction. W does nothing. S moves me to the right. A moves me backwards. D moves me kind of. Okay, yeah. So we're kind of, sort of, but not quite correct. But hey, we are now spawning. We're movement is doing something at least, not quite right, and it looks like we're not sticking to the 90s, especially that first rotation really kind of went funky. So it's looking like when we spawn, we're not spawning with a specific known facing. So it should be facing us in a specific direction. That might be something that we end up adding to the editor when we set a field as spawn location. Set should we be facing north, south, east, or west. And then making sure that we're spawning with that in mind. Cool. All right. So, but we've got to start of our movement. We're getting there. And yeah, so, do the YouTube thing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, notification, leave me a comment, let me know what you're thinking. If you're doing stuff with AI from a development standpoint, I'd love to hear what other folks are doing. If you're seeing things that I could be doing different, be doing better, would love to hear it. And then we'll see you the next time. We'll get this movement smoothed out and looking good. All right, bye.